Hello, Romans here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the sounds behind Vortex Fragoris. So as per usual, we're starting with Korg Minilogue XD, and we've used a lot of sounds from this in Vortex Fragoris. So Vortex has 6 parts, and basically parts 1, 2, and 6 were completely recorded by Simon, and I recorded all of the synth sounds in parts 3, and then parts 4 and 5 in their entirety. As far as Korg Minilogue XD goes, it was used in parts 2 to 5, so I'm going to be talking mainly about those. The first preset I'm going to be talking about is called Extra Fat. It's one of the default presets that Korg comes packed with, and we've used it actually in the verses of Pioneers of Modern Narcissism and as the lead melody in the main theme of My Biggest Foe. Both of these sounds you probably wouldn't say are the same preset because they sound very differently, and we also use them a lot in part 2, basically the intro, the verses, and the instrumental mid section. All of these use Extra Fat. So let me demonstrate individual parts. Different preset was used for the choruses in part 2, and an interesting thing about part 2 is that basically you have like verse, a quarter of a chorus, verse, half of the chorus, verse, 3/4 of a chorus, verse, full chorus. And there's this preset called Rise to Power, which is also one of the default presets. I will demonstrate the full chorus and then one kind of an interesting thing. The second time you hear half of the chorus and we decrease the key like half step down. Now we go to part 3, where you mainly hear the piano, but I also recorded some of the synths in the verses. You've got like 3 different riffs going on, and the first time I start singing in part 3, there's this one section which is repeated only once at that moment, and there I was using the replicant sound, the first preset Korg comes packed with. We also use this preset for the choruses of Wrong Doors, and I think it really goes on to show that Blade Runner is just such an iconic soundtrack, but you take that sound, use it in a different context, and Blade Runner would definitely not be the first thing people would think when hearing this section. So there are 2 different types of verses, and in both the same preset was used. We hear chorus twice in part 3, and then it's kind of repeated in parts 5 and 6. Definitely the biggest moment in the track, and here both times you hear the chorus in part 3, I used two different sounds. There's Rich Juno, which is one of the presets that I bought. There were a couple of packs that I bought from some users, and this was in one of those packs. Rich Juno, very beautiful sound, emulating the classical 80s sound. And the other sound that you can hear in the choruses is the dirty Berlin. This is essentially an arpeggiator, but I'm using it with the filter, so the cutoff being almost fully counterclockwise, so it's a very subtle tone. And the only difference between the two choruses is that in the second one I play the main note an octave up. Then we go into part 4, where you mainly hear the bass guitar with the preset that makes it sound like a saxophone or trombone. I'm gonna talk about that with the bass sounds. As far as the Korg goes, there were two presets that we used there. First one is called Jam Arpeggiator or Jam Arp, and this is one of the presets that I bought. It's made for those percussive sounds, which I'm gonna demonstrate. And towards the end, I basically decrease the cutoff almost completely, meaning I'm going counterclockwise, and it creates this like a feeling of a beating heart. And all the textures that you hear in the background are made by the OBX pad. One of the challenges in this section was that halfway through we basically go from minor to major, and I didn't want that transition to be that audible. That's why when we go to that major note, instead of A sharp we go to B. It's very subtle on the bass, and even the keyboard doesn't really support it, but you kind of feel that the keys changed as it goes on. And I like how subtle that is, because you can feel that the key has changed, but it's not that brutal. And it took a lot of attempts on the bass guitar to play it that way. The final synths were used at the end of part 5, where basically the chord progression, while still hearing that just a drop in the ocean, that sort of a electronic chord that's kind of being repeated. The chord progression is actually that from the chorus of part 6, and that is also supported by 2 presets that we use from Korg. Both presets we have used before, so it's the Blade Runner sound for the main melody, and there are some bass notes, the Raise to Power preset. In part 5, I use this pedal called Perform VE from TC Helicon. It has a lot of the traditional stuff for singers like echo, filters, some effects, even tuning and what have you. You can also sing and play harmonies on a MIDI controller, but its best selling point is definitely the vocal synthesis, what basically means that you record a sample of your voice and you use it as a synthesizer. Also, the electronic drums and the electronic core in part 5 were both created using this. So first of all, I'm gonna recreate the drum groove, and then I'm gonna record a sample, just a drop in the ocean, and I add a little bit of the so that it's more percussive and there's more rhythm to it.
Just a drop in this ocean, 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 just a drop in this ocean. I believed in a cliche that a small ambitious drop would find a way how to color the ocean.